From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week and another month as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. So here we are into December.
Yes.
In the NFL, that's known as the dash for cash. You start separating the posers from the contenders, right? We're going to find out this month who's real, who's fake, all that good stuff. The Minnesota Vikings right now, they look totally legit. They're 10-2.
10-2, one of four teams that hit double digits by December 1st. I know Kevin O'Connell talked about it after the game with his players. I don't know if you watched that.
I saw it.
Yeah,
giving out game balls.
The whole thing. He does a good job of that little post-game rant.
He's the great connector. You can see why guys want to play hard for him. He's got the ability to motivate. He coaches up. It's all about positivity. And right now, it's all kumbaya for the Minnesota Vikings, and they get to see their old friend Captain Kirk on Sunday, where I'm guessing he's going to get a frigid reception inside the sterile confines of the House of Noise.
The sterile confines, yes. Maybe they'll have those pivoting doors open and blow some cold air in on the Falcons coming in from the deep south.
Those dirty birds.
The dirty birds. Yeah, the dirty birds haven't been very good this year. They have...
they were 6-3 3 weeks ago.
Not anymore.
They've cratered. Yeah, Kirk has 6 picks, no touchdowns in that
Not
span.
pick six, but six
no,
picks?
No, just interceptions.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there is a pick 6 sprinkled in there. He leads the NFL with 13 interceptions. So it's not Jameis Winston, your guy in Cleveland. It is Kirk Cousins.
Boy, he threw 2 pick sixes that Monday night debacle.
Yeah.
They led that.
And he still threw for almost 500 yards.
Yeah. Boy, Jameis giveth and Jameis taketh away.
And that's the trademark of Jameis Winston. I mean, if he can ever cut those interceptions in half, he'd be a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Yes, he would. And he wouldn't be in Cleveland, probably.
No.
He'd pitching for somebody else. Okay, so I asked you this on the radio earlier in the week. I said, knowing what you know now, and money aside, at the beginning of this season, would you have thought that Kirk Cousins would be behind Sam Darnold on your depth chart?
No. I mean, I'm going to be blunt. No, absolutely not. Now, Darnold, I think, he's had a tremendous season. Sam Darnold has revived his career.
He's thrived in this system.
He really has. Kirk Cousins, for a while, was doing very well in Atlanta, but as we said, the last few weeks, the wheels have come off a bit. He's got time to, change the narrative and flip the script, because remember, Atlanta comes in 6-6 in the woeful NFC South, tied with Tampa Bay for first place. So despite all their problems and failures recently, the Atlanta Falcons have as much to play for Sunday as the Minnesota Vikings do. Yeah. And there's no real wild card for anybody coming out of the South or the West, unless they run the table. So they need to win a division. Minnesota wants the division, but also has a wild card fallback if need be.
Yeah, well, and it could be. I mean, with both Green Bay and Detroit right there, and the NFC North being what it is this year, of all seasons, the Vikings go 10-2, and they find themselves in second place, 1 game behind Detroit, 1 game ahead of the Packers coming into the weekend.
Yeah, and even the bottom-feeding Chicago Bears aren't that bad.
No.
I mean, they've just been, mismanaged and coached down. They've had a ton of mistakes and dagger defeats. That's not a bad football team. We'll see if they get any better under this interim head coach, Thomas Brown, I believe, is the guy now in charge.
Does he sell shoes, or what was his deal? No, that's Tom McCann.
No, he's not Paul Brown either. Not yet.
He's not Paul Brown yet either. Okay, so are you convinced that this team, as they are currently constructed, let's assume that they stay healthy the rest of the year. We know that Gilmore's banged up, one of your D-backs, but assuming that they stay relatively healthy for the rest of the season, is this team constructed to make a postseason run, or are they kind of flimsy like these last few wins, just kind of getting by? Viking fans are chomping on their nails. These are all, we're all getting more gray hair.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
It's like watching Carl Wallenda walk across the tightrope over
Yes.
Niagara Falls.
Yes.
At some point, there's you trip, right? And yeah, you're right. So they've had a pair of 5-game winning streaks. They started the year 5-0. They were pretty dominant.
Right.
Convincing win over the New York Giants and Daniel Jones. They dominated San Francisco and Houston, 2 physical teams. They had a dominant first half in Green Bay, and the Packers almost came back. Now, in this 5-game winning streak, there's been a lot of horseshoes and 4-leaf clovers going their way. I mean, they've had to squeak them all out. Look, you win, right? That's what you're paid to do. But when you get to the postseason, it's razor thin, and they may have to go on the road. If they don't win the division, they're going on the road for sure.
Yeah, the NFL needs to fix that somehow. I mean,
There's a lot of things the NFL
well,
needs to
that's true. Good point. I mean, they could be theoretically a 15-2 team going on the road to play a team that wins 7 games and wins the West, right?
Definitely possible. Or the South.
Or the South, yeah.
So, and even Green Bay, and again, this thing could change in the next few weeks, but you could have a pair of really good teams out of the North, even if the Lions come back, and 2 of them got to go play mediocre teams on the road. It doesn't seem fair.
I would say that they need to do one up the NBA. The NBA does that too, though, If you win your division, you're going to get one of those top seeds, and then after the first round, it changes. But the NFL's got to take a look at that. There's not enough parity for you to be able to do the way it's done.
Yeah, and now there's only one bye. So,
right.
It's incumbent that you not only win your division, but have the best record in your conference if you want to have that week off. And right now, I would say that the leading contenders in the NFC are Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Philadelphia, right?
No doubt.
So one of those teams won't have to play, and the rest of them will.
You're right.
And you know how it goes in the NFL playoff tournament. There's always somebody that slips up.
Yeah, this is true. All right, speaking of slipped up, we think that the Hall of Fame voters have slipped up again. We're going to talk to a guy who gets slighted once again. We're talking to the great Chuck Foreman coming up.
10K takes your purple ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes, Wally and Eric. We're going to be joined now by a guy who we've been talking about for years, belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He is in the Minnesota Vikings Ring of Honor. There he is. Former Vikings great running back Chuck Foreman, who in our eyes and who many's eyes changed the game of football. And unfortunately, this past week, Chuck, word came down that you did not make the final cut for the Hall of Fame. And I know you're disappointed, but how do you look at this now after all these years? And I know this is as close as it's been for you because you actually, you had some people pushing the envelope for you. And before we get into talking about this year's Vikings, I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
First of all, here's the deal. This is the first time I've ever been pushed for the Hall of Fame. Let's clarify that, number one. Scope Marketing, Ben Tice, Jack Matee, those guys, the videographer, the marketing company, the fans pushed me and got me to the list of 31 out of 183. I don't know what the whole thing was, but the first time I got to 31, when I sit down and I break it down, all the players in the history of this game that played it, on the senior side of it, which means when I say the senior side, that means guys that should have been in there long ago. didn't get selected in there for whatever reason. I made the list of 30, which is one heck of an accomplishment in itself. Number two, I don't need 11 people to tell me how great of a football player I was, period. I mean, it's all documented. So that's how I see it. I mean, it would have been great if it happened, but I'm not going to lose any sleep because it didn't. Now, I know what I'm going to have to deal with after this is like all the calls that are coming in already as to why, what do they use, how do they use, what process they use, or how do they decide? And that answer to the answer to that question is I have no clue.
Yeah.
But I am wanting everybody to know that I'm good and I'm in a good place and I'm happy and all that. So, it was a good push. I think the guys did a great job pushing me and doing all the things that they needed to do to get me in front of the committee for the first time, by the way, after 40 or 50 years. And we got to this point. So it would have been nice to get in there. But when I look at the list of the players that were on the entire list, I'm looking at it like I thought most of them were already in there, to be quite honest with you. And they're not. And then I see guys in there that made the Pro Bowl 3 times. Maybe they had one great year, went to a Super Bowl. And then I looked on the list of the guys that were in there today. A couple of them made 9 Pro Bowls. 9. And never, people say, well, there's a difference between being a Pro Bowl and being a All-Pro. Well, what difference is it? If you're playing in a Pro Bowl, that means you got all the All-Pros in there playing against each other. What does that tells me you're All-Pro. But I saw some guys that are on that list that had 9 Pro Bowls that played years ago, and they weren't even in the Hall of Fame. So I guess I can say it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And I'm in a good place. I'm glad we went, and I'm glad we did what we did, but the way they going, and they only pick 3 people a year. I would say 99.9% of that list going to be dead if they ever get in.
Oh, boy.
And let me
So
add this, because I've
Right.
done some research on it. You don't have to say it. I will. I want to make it crystal clear. 3 guys from your era: Gale Sayers, Floyd Little, Earl Campbell. All fabulous football players who belong in the Hall of Fame. But I've stacked your numbers up next to theirs. You've played in more big games, more Super Bowls, and your yardage totals, I'm talking total yards, touchdowns, everything, are as good or better than Little, Sayers, and Campbell. So if they belong in, you belong in. So just know from me and you, Wally, us, and your fans, you're in the Hall of Fame in our eyes.
Hey, man, I'm good to go. Trust me when I tell you that. I mean, I see how the system works now.
It doesn't.
That's what I was going to say. So,
Well-
so you can't really, it is what it is. And so when you look at it and you're realistic about it, and in the end, when it's all said and done, you're like, okay, then what does it take? And so that's the question.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, don't misunderstand me. It would have been good to be in, but I'm at a better place now than I was before. Because now, at least still, the thing that's come out of it was that from what I see from my social media stuff, it's like there's like thousands and thousands of people out there that were in my corner, but they also thought I was already in.
Right. Yeah.
So, the good thing is I can reach out and we can talk to those people and see where it goes from there. But if you're asking me if I'm consumed with this thing, I'm going to tell you, heck no.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear, Chuck.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know that. You know me.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this year's Vikings now. 10-2. Would you have thought that they would be at this point right now? Were you thinking a 10-2 team and when this season started?
To be quite honest with you, no. I thought they'd have a winning record, no question about it. Maybe 7 wins right now, be on target to maybe win 10 total games. But I think what we have in place is I thought they brought in some really good players in the key positions to take us to a different level. The first thing was we got a quarterback. Okay, but no, let me just rearrange that. We got an offensive line that was playing some pretty good football to give our quarterback and the running backs a chance to showcase their talents. We got a quarterback who was in two bad systems, which didn't allow him to showcase his skill sets. And then he went to one team that San Francisco that gave him an idea of what it's going to take to be a top-notch quarterback. He got coached. And then he comes here with Kevin O'Connell, who's, more like a quarterback whisperer. That's what they tell me. And it showcased in the quarterbacks he's brought in here, he's pretty much taking them to a different level. So my hope is that our quarterback that we have, like I said, whom I like, he'll stay and understand that this is the place that he needs to be to get the guidance and the help he needs. 10-2, the defense. What's his name? Grenard is his name?
Jonathan
He brings
Grenard.
something to that defense that's energetic. He's smart. He's a big playmaker. There's a whole lot of parts that they put together that have gelled. And so 10-2, and they could be very easily 12-0.
Chuck, when you played on the dominant Minnesota Viking teams, you had obviously a Hall of Fame coach in Bud Grant. You had a great coordinator in Jerry Burns. Upstairs, you had, Frank Gilliam, Jerry Reichow, Jim Finks, Max Winter was the owner. I feel like this current group of Vikings really has sound structure. The Wilfs put everything in place. I like what Quezzy's done, bringing in all these pieces like Jonathan Grenard, Stephon Gilmore, etc. KOC is definitely a guy who connects with the players. And Brian Flores, I mean, he should be a head coach, but the Vikings will take him as a defensive coordinator. I know that.
I mean, unfortunately, we're going to lose him sooner rather than later because that defense takes on his personality. You can look at the guy. I respect him so much for how he handled this situation in Miami. He's a guy that has, integrity. He's got the work ethic. He's got the knowledge. He's got everything it takes to be a head coach and somebody that your players are going to respect. Because believe me, when his players look at him, they look at him with great respect. And so when you got a guy like that, and he's got those defenses, he confuses, he's aggressive, and they still stay healthy. They're going to be a team to be. You can't take them lightly. So, and then when we get to the playoff part, it's any given Sunday, everybody's equal. So we got our offense, and our quarterbacks are performing. We got the wide receiver. Everything's in play. So all we got to do is stay healthy.
All right, final question for you. Your biggest concern right now about the Vikings as they go into this final home stretch of the regular season?
Well, my biggest concern is basically just staying healthy. I think they have everything in play. They've been playing some really good defense. And remember, we're playing in the NFL. Everybody's, good for the most part. And so if they can stay consistent on offense, defense, maintain what they're doing, maybe tighten up a few little spots. But, from the quarterbacks, we got the receivers that are just second to none. We got a quarterback that can get them the ball. So the offensive line's got to stay fast with that. They got to be consistent. And, I think the next 4 games, 5 games, they can be in a good place when the playoffs come.
All right, Chuck. Good
Thanks,
stuff. Good luck next year. We'll try it again. It's like Charlie Brown. Wait till next year.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to participate next year.
All right. Yeah. We'll see.
Okay?
Fair enough.
All right.
All right.
See you, Chuck.
He is Chuck Foreman, the great number 44 in the Ring of Honor for the Minnesota Vikings. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Eric and I will be back with more here after this time out. Stay tuned.
You can visit llcoolj.info to understand what the government grants really hit for. You can visit llcoolj.org.com to make sense. Whatever you sell, the government's buying it. You don't need an LLC or an S corporation. We the people. We already pledged allegiance to this nation. It's up to us if the bell toll of freedom rings. That's word from Olivia's child, Sammy's favorite sibling, and I'm out.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes. We're going to continue talking football, this time maroon and gold. Your Golden Gophers are going bowling. They are going to be in a bowl game to be determined. We shall see. I think that all comes out on Sunday once the college football playoff brackets are announced. I'm excited to see what those brackets are going to look like. That should be fun. First time ever with a 12-team bracket. But as for the Gophers, what are your thoughts on this season? 7-5. They beat Bucky Badger to finish the regular season at 7-5. They've beaten Wisconsin? 3 of the last 4 years? Is that right?
Yep.
And twice in Madison. Wow, who would have thought?
Dominance. Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I'm going to grade them on a sliding scale. This will change based on the bowl result. But right now I have Minnesota at a B-. I thought it was a pretty good year. The SoCal sweep, very memorable, beating USC and UCLA back-to-back weeks. Right. Going to Champaign and finally getting a win over Brett Bielema in the Illini. I mean, I think he'd knocked him off 11 straight games going back to his days in Wisconsin and then, of course, Illinois. So those are positives. But it seems like in every Gopher year, there's 1 or 2 hiccups that prevent them from being good and really good. And obviously the opening night loss to North Carolina when you couldn't make the field goal to win it. North Carolina wasn't very good this year. Mac Brown got gassed. So that's a bad loss. And the hiccup at Rutgers can't happen if you're going to get to that elite level. That's 2 wins they let get away. So I give them a B-, but if they can get a win in a bowl game, hopefully in a Sunbelt city.
Yes.
Not New York City or
you're
Detroit.
thinking about going, in other words.
Well, it depends on the time of the day.
Depends on where in California.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if it was California, I'm out there. Nashville, maybe. Charlotte, perhaps. Phoenix, that'd be fun. But the key for me is get that win. 8-5 is a selling point for PJ. You're 3 games above sea level then. That's a pretty good year, and you have stuff to build on. But if you go to 7-6, the B- probably gets a C+. So for me, it's either you finish C+ or B.
Ooh, wow. Okay. You could go either way.
Sliding scale, baby.
Sliding scale. Well, and you mentioned those 2 losses. What about the 2 losses that they barely lost? The Michigan game on the controversial onside kick offsides call. And then losing to Penn State at the end of the game as well. And there's another game that they potentially could have won. I mean, I'm not saying that this squad was going to go 11-1 because they were thoroughly beaten, particularly in the second half by Iowa. But, they could easily have been 9-3, 10-2.
And I think that's the frustration if you're the hardcore Gopher fan who watches this year after year after year. But, again, a pretty good season. There was some definite high marks. It was fun to be in Pasadena when they won that game at the Rose Bowl, and all those Minnesota fans were out there in SoCal living out their dream of seeing a game in the Rose Bowl. But I'll say something that may sound almost preposterous. But I think NIL can be a good thing for Minnesota.
Oh, boy.
With all the Fortune 500s in this market.
It's got to happen,
They
though.
just got to go out and get the money.
It's got to happen.
Knock on the door and beg. Bring your tin cup. Do what you got to do.
I got some bad news for you. Max Brosmer is one and done.
Yeah.
He's going to be gone after this year. A pretty good year as a quarterback.
Transfer portal.
Yeah.
Well, Miller Moss from USC's in it.
Okay, here we go. All right, takes of the day coming up next. You don't want to miss it, ever. Stay with us.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. A big shout out to the viewers watching in the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, the overdeveloped suburbs.
Overdeveloped, yes.
The exurbs on Fox 9 Plus. Okay, they're going to find out what your mood is. Are you a giddy guardian, grumpy guardian? What is it?
Let's talk baseball. And Commissioner Rob Manfred. Now, he's the guy that brought us the pitch clock. I've come to like the pitch clock, actually. I'm okay with it. I don't know if I like it, but I'm okay with it. It moves the games along. That's okay. Bigger bases? That's okay, too, I guess. Yeah, why not? Not real thrilled with limiting the number of throws that a pitcher can throw over to first base. That's so-so. I'm really against that ridiculous put a ghost runner at second base to start extra innings. That's just out of this world dumb. But speaking of out of this world, your guy, Rob Manfred, has come up with a butte here, and they are actually discussing this. Why, I have no idea. What's wrong with the game of baseball the way it is? Stop it. Stop coming up with these cockamamie schemes to try and liven up the game. Baseball is lively enough. So what they want to do, this golden at-bat rule. The golden at-bat gives a manager the option at any point in the game to pick any player to bat in a certain circumstance. So in other words, kind of like a pinch hitter, but it can be any player, anytime. Okay, so in other words, you're the Dodgers. Well, the Dodgers lineup's loaded anyway, but you could bat Shohei anytime. Bases loaded. We're bringing Shohei in, even though he's not scheduled to bat for 5 more batters. Or maybe he's standing on second base. I don't know. Let's bring him in from second base. He gets the bat. Or Aaron Judge if they're the Yankees. Or Jose Ramirez if you're Cleveland. Or Carlos Correa if you're the Twins. We want that guy to bat in a certain situation, so we just pull him off the base, pull him off the bench, whatever, he gets the bat there. Absolutely preposterous. Don't call it baseball anymore. Call it what you want. Call it dodgeball. I don't care. But stop it, Rob Manfred. You are trying to make a mark on the game that doesn't need to be made. Jeez.
Well, let's see what that mood meter says. Oh, boy. Yeah, peaking the red. Angry American. Somebody put a fire hose on this guy. Cool him off.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it is really absurd. All right. Well, I'm going to go after a commissioner of another sport, the NFL.
Oh, sure.
The dictator, Roger Goodell. His fingerprints are all over today's game. And believe me, I can't recognize what I watch every week. So I'm making a plea to you, Roger Goodell. Tell anybody out there who wants a new stadium, forget about getting a dome. I don't want to see any more football games under a roof on a rug. I want to see what I saw in Buffalo Sunday night. San Francisco, out of their element. You're not in NorCal anymore. The 49ers were skating, they were slipping, they were sliding, and the Bills won easily. How about the Thanksgiving night game, where the Dolphins were frozen fish at Lambeau? Or your Cleveland Browns turning into a snowplow team and knocking off Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. That's good football. Fans like to see it. They like to be involved in it. If you're at the game, you love it. If you're watching in Palm Beach or Palm Springs, you can't believe they play in those kind of elements. That's football. And I want to give a big thank you to the Buffalo Bills. They're getting a brand new playpen, new stadium finally. And guess what? No roof, no rug, going to stay outside. Good job, Buffalo. You know what football truly is. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. Go Josh Allen. Thanks for watching. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.